On, shall we? Let's talk a little bit about some of the events that went down last weekend. And one of those, of course, it was Who's Number One on Friday night. I don't think we need to really dissect that too much. You guys are going to get back in the studio on Wednesday and talk about it on the Who's Number One podcast. But there was also a big event, Subversiv, that went on in Miami, right? So just to explain, Subversiv, it's held on the Fight to Win stage. It's basically, for all intents and purposes, it's a Fight to Win format, but with a different name. And they have a team versus team challenge instead of a series of super fights. So what they do is you'll have, in this case, you had 8 teams, each with 3 different grapplers on the squad. You have a 180 pounds an under and over representative for the men, and then you have a female grappler, which can be any weight. It can be an absolute, basically. And those 3 grapplers will go up against another 3 grapplers from a team, and it's basically a tournament. So Atos, well, they just crushed it. They absolutely crushed Subversiv. And it's not a surprise when you look at the squad that they sent, right?
Yeah, they sent their A team, and I think they had something to prove because they were the current, or they were the Subversiv 4 champions. Subversiv 4, they sent Lucas Barbosa, Rafaela Guedes, and Andy Murasaki. They did a little bit of a lineup switch for the most recent one, but they had to defend their title, and they did so impressively.
Yeah, can you believe that they sent ADCC champion Kaynan Duarte, that they sent Nogi world champion Lucas Hulk Barbosa, and they sent the surging Rafaela Guedes as well. And so basically they just switched out Andy Murasaki. Kind of crazy actually that Hulk managed to cut down to 180 pounds for this, and Kaynan came in as the heavyweight representative. Heavy hitters, heavy hitters, and they crushed it. So Kaynan had 2 matches, I believe, right? Correct. Won both of those by leg lock. Rafaela had 3 matches, won 2 of hers by submission, and Hulk had two matches. He won both of his by decision. Let's roll this highlight and we can take a look at some of the best moments. And kicking off with Kaynan, this was in the opening round against American Top Team. But Kaynan, interestingly, he actually hit 2 leg lock submissions, right, Corey?
That's right. He hit 2 heel hooks, but he also showed us a little bit more of his back game. We know he's been developing his back attacks. And last year he had a tournament where he hit several of these reverse mount triangles or rear mount triangles. So looking for that again. But yeah, he eventually settled down and started to attack the legs, which we know he's been working on since the end of last year, where he struggled a little bit in leg locks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been talked about to death, right? But obviously the ADCC, Lachlan Giles, it was definitely a wake-up call, getting submitted ADCC open weight division. And last year, the loss to Roberto Cyborg by heel hook as well. I would consider that more of an anomaly as opposed to a technical issue. But I definitely feel like Kaynan has spent a long time addressing those technical issues, and the results speak for themselves. Rafaela, of course, just continues to crush her opponents. She's absolutely merciless, a really dangerous submission hunter. Here, of course, is Lucas Hulk Barbosa, looking slim at 180 pounds. And we talked about the weight cut, and we feel that maybe one of the reasons for him cutting weight is because he's been talking a lot about a possible move to MMA this year. And I feel like it's a trial run, cutting weight down to a much lower division. What do you think about that, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, this entire team looked like a group of monsters out there on the mat. I think if you would have had this team a year ago, it still would have been a horrifying group to have to show down with. And this year, they just keep improving. They're coming out. I think watching Kaynan do his thing, he seems to have ideas for the kinds of submissions he's wanting to pull off in these tournaments, whether it was Subversiv this time with his heel hooks or the rear mount triangle that he was working out. It shows not only Gordon is the kind of guy who can is skilled enough to maybe not call his shot on as extravagant a scale, but make sure he's targeting.
That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, much more of a low-key kind of character, right? Let's the jiu-jitsu do the talking.
Absolutely, yeah. It's awesome to see, and they really made it entertaining and just dominant.
Yeah, speaking of dominant, I mean, Rafaela Guedes, man, jeez. Like, just, she catches her second submission win over Maggie Grandaddy in 2 matches. Of course, she had a win against her and Who's Number One not too long ago, and really poured it on Natalie Ribeiro of Checkmat in the final here. This was the very final match, actually, in the team challenge, and Natalie, I mean, to her credit, outweighed and outsized but still hung in there and actually, was game right until the end, lost by decision, right?
That's right, and she had a couple tough matches. She's been on a ton of Subversive. She's always undersized because it is an absolute female division.
Right.
But she has collected several significant submission wins on the stage, and sometimes you have to take your licks against a girl as big and strong and tough as Rafaela Guedes.
Hanging in the distance there, though, wow. I mean, that's more than some people could hope for. But yeah, I mean, incredible performance. Team Atos, yeah, definitely just looking untouchable there, and kind of makes you wonder who are they going to send next time to the next Subversive, because they've got so many black belts to choose from.
Well, one thing I want to point out is Hulk's cut to 180, 185, or wherever he may end up landing. We talk about DDS being able to send a 5-person squad to ADCC. What about Atos? I mean, they could fill every division.
Oh my word. Can you imagine if Hulk dropped down to 77 kilos? It's insane. Although it's that age-old question, is a logjam, right? Because they have so many team members. It's just like DDS, they have so many team members that they could potentially field multiple grapplers in each division. So it's kind of an interesting thought as to how they will decide who goes in. Because I'm sure Andy Murasaki will be looking at that 77 kilogram division as well in the future.